one of America's most historic fine homes is located in LaGrange, Georgia, and it's called the Hills and Dales Estate. We're on our national adventure and we're excited to take you there today. If you haven't met us yet, hi, this is Andrew, I'm Alison, this is Kiara, Carolina, and Chloe, our 3 girls. We live here in Georgia, love to travel the state, and hope you'll hit subscribe to never miss an adventure.
We've arrived, we've parked, and we're headed to the main entrance of the Hills and Dales Estate. You want to ring the bell and let them know you're here?
Admission includes access to the grounds, homes, and historic gardens, and visitors are shown a brief orientation film followed by a guided tour to the Georgian Italian villa and self-guided tour of the pre-Civil War gardens. Guided tours are available if you request in advance.
So we are here, and the main house in the state is there. We're currently at the visitor center, and the tour takes you down into the home and estate itself. Our tour starts in about 10 minutes, so we're just going to wander about a little bit and explore the grounds. It's so gorgeous. From the back side of the visitor center, you can see the estate sort of. It's hidden right there.
You'll need to have about 2 hours to tour the estate, and that means that you're going to have to arrive 2 hours before closing, and garden tickets will only be sold after that time. They are open March through June, Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6, and then July through February, they're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5 p.m. They're closed on the major holidays, and you can check them out online for updated information and events.
We're not allowed to film inside the actual home. However, we are going to take a tour of it. We'll be able to tell you all about it afterward.
The tour first begins with a background on 3 of the most important women here at Hills and Dales. These are the women that cared for the gardens. The story first begins with Farrell, who planted dwarf boxwood parterres, and they've adorned the terraces in the hills for more than 175 years, being one of the most preserved 19th century gardens in the country. But she used to open up her garden for children, and one of those children was Callaway. He fell in love with the gardens, and after she died, he purchased it. The tour goes on to share how these 3 women cherished the garden in their life at Hills and Dales. They share the vision that was preserved by each one of these generation families and offer you a chance to stroll through the trodden paths and descendant terraces and to sit in the seclusion of the roses or pause and gaze up at the magnificent home. This is a magnificent national treasure. The woodwork inside the home is incredible, but the grounds and the gardens are breathtaking. They have something really neat called Earl's Grey Hunt. So ask for the complimentary home and garden scavenger hunts that kids can get. There's really fun to look at the different items that maybe you would have missed on a tour normally.
Just watched a phenomenal show on the history of Hills and Dales, and now we are in the tram and we're headed up to the estate itself.
They find all these fun-filled things along the journey, and they also learn about the plants and animals and history that make it super special. And at the end of it, you get a special prize at the visitor center.
So that was the main road entrance that we had to actually turn around for. That would have taken us directly to the house. But because it's a tour, it's closed off.
There are several tours to take here at this home. They've got a behind the scenes tour, as well as an art tour and group tours, as well as just your standard regular tour of the home and grounds.
11, and it was originally 90 acres in a home we paid $8,000 for. However, the home that was here wasn't large enough to accommodate the Callaways and their extended family that lived with them.
We found all those in the house. Then we're gonna find all these things outside in the garden. We weren't allowed to film inside the house.
Yeah, but allowed to film out.
The tour inside the home takes you into the bedrooms, the dining rooms. It takes you through the stair rooms, the music rooms, library and living rooms, showcasing the woodwork and design details of the home. It also showcases details and things that they have brought into the home to make it more of a home throughout the years.
What did you think of the house?
The house was amazing. The last room that they show you was really cool because it had all these like toys and things inside of it.
So inside the building, enormous fireplace area. I think what I was most struck by was the woodwork. It was all birch, but it was stained to look like oak. And the main room, the living room, was so huge and enormous with large beams all throughout. So very, very stately building and very stately home. What struck me most is that this home was actually built around wartime, and not only that, it was built within 15 months. So that's really fast for this type of house. It's built in 15 months. Each room has its own key on the 3rd floor, and all the doorknobs are glass. That was also a different feature to this home. The kitchen was huge and it was very stately and up to date. I was struck by the fact that the whole home had electricity and it was all up-to-date appliances for its time period and era. And again, it was built in 15 months, which is just unheard of.
Hills and Dales is one of America's most widely acclaimed gardens. Plus, there's even a secret love story here. There's history in this mansion and beautiful landscape gardens, and we are super excited to walk their grounds to see the gorgeous landscaping that's here. While we couldn't film inside the house, you better believe we're filming outside. The estate wasn't always called Hills and Dales. Beautiful Farrell Gardens was started more than 180 years ago. Nancy Farrell was Sarah Coleman Farrell's mother, and Nancy showered the garden with love for beauty that was passed on to her daughter. Sarah Farrell married alongside her husband, Judge Blunt Farrell, and expanded the gardens with plantings, adding a series of dwarf boxwoods. Sarah had the boxwood pruned to spell the words God at the entry in honor of all. The 19th century design of the garden laid out by Sarah remains here today, and you can find tons of photos documenting the history's beginnings. Sarah entertained a young neighborhood boy, and his name was Earl Callaway. On Sunday afternoons in the garden, she enjoyed his company and taught him all about the plants and gardens, all about the hard work, and as she got older, he decided to purchase the estate. When Fuller Callaway did indeed buy, he began to replace the existing structure, and he worked with architects to complete the property. Meanwhile, his wife assumed the care and development of the gardens. Fuller and Ida called the new home they shared with their sons Hills and Dales for the rolling hills and shady dales that surrounded the home. Ida had a greenhouse that was built in 1916. It replaced in 1949, but the new structure sits on the original greenhouse's footprint. After the death of Fuller and Ida, their sons submitted sealed bids for the property, and Fuller Jr. bested his brother by just a tiny bit. So Fuller Jr. and Alice Hand Callaway moved in, and they continued the traditions in the mother-in-law's footsteps, tending and enlarging the gardens for 6 decades. Alice was the last person to live at Hills and Dales, and through an endowment, donated the home to the Fuller Callaway Foundation.
Okay, I really like this garden myself. So they have 3 rows and they're like greenhouses for your garden area. Like garden meaning like your vegetables for your like your cabbage and your Brussels and things like that, all your brassicas. They actually have your greenhouse using windows that you'd stack up during the winter months so that you could grow, maybe even create your seedlings all year long. I love it.
After going through this garden bed, we walked around to the back of the greenhouse. And the back of the greenhouse had 2 very long beds that were in the ground. And I know that they've got bulbs for tulips and seasonal flowers, but I told my girls, if this were my home, these would be garlic. I would have planted garlic all throughout these 2 beds to basically service the whole year for garlic. I would have just planted garlic. Around the back and the side, they've got trees, they've got other plants that they're growing, and then they had a garden that was closed in for like your standard typical garden for brassicas, lettuce, probably tomatoes and cucumbers in the summer. And we took a look at that from all angles as we walked through the garden space. And then around the back, there's an area for flowers and a kennel for dogs. They loved their animals, and there was certainly plenty of space for tons of animals. There's lots of stories surrounding their dogs and their cats. And even on the sheet that the kids get, they are encouraged to find Mickleberry and Heidi, who now call Hills and Dales home. Chloe was really determined to find the kitty cat, but we were not able to find them. Maybe you can when you come to visit.
Being a gardener myself, I'm most fascinated with their whole gardening here and the system that they have set up. Really fascinating.
This setup honestly doesn't seem like it's anything spectacular, but the older plant varieties and maybe even the rosebuds, they were intriguing. I actually have similar setups, so I love seeing gardens and what other people do. I use the same concrete for my beds at home, so it's really cool to see them used here on this grand estate for a garden like this. I guess it makes me feel like I'm doing something right. In the 1940s, a pool area was added to the estate and even updated in 1990. However, when the estate was opened to the public in 2004, the pool was filled in with pea gravel because of the insurance liability. Technically, the pea gravel could feasibly be removed in order to restore the area back to a swimming pool, which is really cool to think that it's not completely gone. This is the area of Hills and Dales that was beautifully constructed. This is where the love story all began.
I love this. It has to be one of my favorite parts of the garden.
Not just a love story with the garden, but a love story with the Callaways. And to hear about it, you'll have to come and tour the estate. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and that you make plans to visit Hills and Dales in LaGrange, Georgia soon. It's definitely worth going out to see. See you on the next adventure.